$10,000. It feels like real money, right up until you start doing the math on how to actually grow it. Then it starts to feel like nothing. It's 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. You're in Toronto or Calgary or wherever. You're scrolling on your phone in bed, and somehow you've ended up watching a guy in a rented Lamborghini in Miami explain how he turned 10 grand into $500,000 in 18 months by trading something he keeps calling high-conviction asymmetric plays. He's standing in front of a penthouse he absolutely does not live in. And you're lying there thinking, what if I just had $10,000 to work with? What's actually possible? Here's the thing. Nobody in that algorithm wants to tell you. You can absolutely turn $10,000 into $500,000. The math is real. The strategy is so boring, it should come with a warning label. And the Canadians who've actually pulled it off aren't making YouTube videos about it. They're sitting in a 2014 Honda Civic in the Costco parking lot in Mississauga, and most of them don't even know they're rich. My name is Nick, not a financial advisor, just math. Hit subscribe, let's go. $10,000 to $500,000, that's a 50 times return. To pull that off, your money needs to roughly double a little under 6 times. And the only thing that decides how long that takes is your annual rate of return. There's an old finance shortcut called the rule of 72. You take 72, divide it by your return percentage, and that's roughly how many years it takes your money to double. At 8%, your money doubles every 9 years. At 10%, every 7 years and change. Now, over the last 30 years, a globally diversified stock portfolio has returned somewhere around 9 to 10% a year nominal. The TSX on its own averages about 9.3%. The S&P 500 over the long haul is closer to 10. So let's plug those in. If you drop $10,000 into a basic Canadian index ETF and never add another penny, at 10% you cross $500,000 at year 41. At 8%, year 51. At 7%, year 58. Now I know what you're thinking. 41 years. Nick, that's not a strategy, that's a sentence. Like by the time my money becomes $500,000, I'll be too old to remember why I cared. Stay with me, because that number, 41 years, is the do-nothing path. That's if you make one $10,000 deposit and then forget your password. The math gets dramatically less depressing the second you add even small monthly contributions. Because monthly contributions don't add to your account. They multiply with it. And here's the part that matters in Canada. We have a tool the Americans don't. The TFSA, tax-free savings account. Every dollar that grows inside it grows tax-free forever. No capital gains, no tax on dividends, nothing. The CRA cannot touch it. So when I say $500,000 in a TFSA, that's $500,000 in your pocket, not $500,000 minus a tax bill. Let me introduce you to someone. We'll call her Maya. She's 28, she lives in Mississauga, and she makes about $58,000 a year as a marketing coordinator. She's not rich. She drives a 2018 Honda Civic. Her apartment has beige carpet that came with the lease. She's just decided she's done feeling broke. So she scrapes together $10,000 from her savings, opens a TFSA at Wealthsimple, and drops it all into a single ETF, VEQT. That's Vanguard's all-equity Canadian ETF. One ticker, globally diversified, done. Then she sets up an automatic transfer of $400 a month. Every payday, money goes from checking into her TFSA, and the TFSA automatically buys more VEQT. That's it. That's Maya's entire financial plan. End of year 1, Maya has about $15,800. End of year 5, she's at about $44,000. She's frustrated. She's been doing this for 5 years, and she still doesn't have enough money to buy a used Civic in cash. This is the moment, mathematically and psychologically, where most people quit. They look at their balance, decide compounding is broken, and pull the money out. Maya doesn't, because she watched a video like this one. We'll come back to her. But there's a specific year usually somewhere between year 9 and year 11, where the entire game inverts. Her money starts doing more work than she does, and most people quit literally 1 or 2 years before it happens. We'll get to that. First, the strategy. The lazy method is 3 steps. I'm going to say them out loud, and you're going to think I'm holding back. I'm not. This is genuinely it. Step 1. Open a TFSA at a low-cost Canadian brokerage. Wealth Simple, Questrade, or Qtrade. 0 to open. No minimum. 4 minutes on your phone in your pajamas. Step 2. Buy a 1-ticker, globally diversified, all-equity ETF. The big 3 are VEQT, XEQT, and ZEQT. All equity, all in one, globally diversified. Their management expense ratios are between 0.20% and 0.24%. That means for every $10,000 invested, you pay about $20 to $24 a year, less than a single delivery order from Skip the Dishes, and it gets you ownership of basically every major company on earth. Step 3. Set up automatic monthly contributions. Every payday, money goes from checking to TFSA. The TFSA buys the ETF automatically. You don't think about it, you don't time it, you don't check the market, you don't read the news, it just runs. That's it. That's the entire lazy method. You're now an investor. Congratulations. Now let me tell you why this absurdly simple thing absolutely demolishes almost every other investment strategy in Canada. There's a report called SPIVA, published twice a year by S&P Dow Jones. They track how professional fund managers, the ones in suits on Bay Street managing billions, perform compared to just buying the index. The latest SPIVA Canada scorecard, roughly 88% of Canadian equity fund managers underperformed their benchmark over 10 years. 88%? Stretch it out further. Over 15 years, the number creeps closer to 95%. The pros with PhDs and Bloomberg terminals and entire research departments, they can't beat the thing you can buy on Wealth Simple for 0.20%. And look, if you're feeling skeptical, I get it. It feels too easy. There has to be a catch. There isn't. Warren Buffett, the actual richest investor of his generation, made a public $1 million bet in 2008 that a plain index fund would beat a hand-picked basket of elite hedge funds over 10 years. He won. The index returned 126%. The hedge fund of funds returned 36%. He gave the winnings to charity. His official advice to regular investors? Buy a low-cost index fund and stop trying to be clever. That is what the smartest investor on earth tells his own wife to do with his money when he dies. That's not nothing. Okay, but here's where most videos would wrap up. Slap a subscribe for more on the screen and roll credits. We're not doing that. Because if I leave you here, you'll open the account, buy the ETF, and then absolutely sabotage yourself within 18 months. Statistically, that is exactly what happens. There's a firm called DALBAR that's been running the same study for 30 years. They look at what investors actually earn in their accounts versus what the market itself earned. The gap is, it's not great. In a typical year, the market returns around 10%. The average equity fund investor earns closer to 6%. That's a 4 percentage point gap. That's not a rounding error. That's the entire reason most people don't end up rich. Over 30 years, that gap turns a 9% market return into a 5% investor return. On $100,000, that difference compounds into nearly $700,000 of wealth that just evaporates. A paid-off house in Hamilton gone, just from a few percentage points of bad behavior over 30 years. So how do investors do it to themselves? 2 ways. They panic sell during crashes, and they try to time the market. Here's a number that should make you uncomfortable. If you'd invested in a globally diversified portfolio over the last 30 years and missed just the 10 best trading days, your total return would be cut roughly in half. Miss the best 30 days, your return drops by about 84%. And here's the kicker. Roughly 76% of those best days happen during a bear market or during the first 2 months of a new bull market. The days that make you rich happen specifically when everyone is convinced the world is ending and you should sell. which is exactly when most people sell. March 2020. The TSX dropped 37% in 5 weeks. Half the country pulled out. By August, it had fully recovered. The Canadians who sold locked in the loss. The Canadians who kept buying through April bought the bottom and didn't even know it. The lazy method works only if you actually do nothing, which sounds easy. It is the hardest thing about it. Now, the second silent killer, fees. And this one I have a personal vendetta against because nobody talks about it loudly enough in Canada. For years, Canadians have paid some of the highest mutual fund fees in the developed world. The average Canadian equity mutual fund still charges an MER somewhere between 1.8% and 2.3%. Your bank advisor, your wealth specialist, the guy in the navy blazer who calls you Mr. or Miss, that's where the money goes, quietly, every year, forever. Let me show you what that costs. Imagine two Canadians. Both have $500,000 invested. Both earn 7% a year. Person A pays 0.20% in fund fees, a basic ETF. Person B pays 2% in a bank mutual fund. Same money, same return. After 30 years, Person A has about $3.6 million. Person B has about $2.0 million. That 2% fee, the one that sounds rude to even complain about, quietly siphoned off about $1.6 million of their retirement. Read that again, 2%. A fee that sounds like nothing on paper cost them $1.6 million on a $500,000 portfolio over 30 years. Welcome to Canadian Wealth Management. Here's the part the industry really doesn't want you to internalize. The lazy ETF charges 0.20%. The expensive bank mutual fund charges 2%. The expensive bank mutual fund usually underperforms. So in Canada, you are paying 10 times more money to do worse. You are paying a premium for a worse product. There's no scenario where that makes sense to anyone except the person collecting the commission. If you take nothing else from this video, take this. Fees are the only part of investing that's guaranteed. Returns are uncertain. Fees are 100% certain. Minimize the certain bad thing. Okay? Stay with me because here's the part that should genuinely make you angry that nobody told you sooner. The real lever isn't your return. It's your contribution. Let me show you. Take that $10,000 and add $200 a month at 8%. After 30 years, about $399,000. Bump it to $500 a month, $846,000. Bump it to $1,000 a month, roughly $1.6 million. Going from $200 to $500 a month is an extra $300 a month. A streaming service stack and a takeout budget. That one decision alone adds about $447,000 to your future net worth. Almost the entire $500,000 target. From skipping Uber Eats 3 times a week, held steady for 3 decades. And inside a TFSA, none of that gets taxed. Not a cent. Not the dividends, not the gains, not the withdrawal. For 2026, the TFSA contribution limit is $7,000 a year. If you're over 18 and have never used yours, your cumulative room is now over $100,000. Most Canadians don't know this. The CRA isn't going to call and remind you. There's a quote from Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's late business partner, that I think about a lot. He said the first $100,000 is the hardest. Walk everywhere. Eat nothing that wasn't bought with a coupon. Whatever it takes. Because once you hit $100,000, the game changes. And he's right. The first $100,000 in your TFSA takes Maya about 10 years. The second $100,000 takes about 5. The third takes about 3. Because once you've got a 6-figure base, the account starts generating serious returns on its own. And those returns start compounding on top of your contributions. The early years feel like nothing because they are. You're building the base. From ground level, all foundations look like dirt. Let's check back in on Maya. She started with $10,000 plus $400 a month inside her TFSA. Year 5, she had $44,000 and felt like quitting. Year 9, she's at about $96,000. Year 10, she crosses $112,000. And here, right around year 10, something clicks. Maya's TFSA earns about $9,000 that year just from compounding. She only contributed $4,800. For the first time, the market did more work than she did. By year 20, Maya's at $311,000. By year 30, she's at $760,000. She's a marketing coordinator from Mississauga with a Honda Civic. The math just made her wealthy. And because it's a TFSA, every cent of that $760,000 is hers. The CRA gets nothing. That moment Maya hit at year 10, that's the inflection point. That's the lazy method finally earning its name. Every dollar past that point is mostly the market paying her back for being patient. And listen, I know what some of you are thinking right now. I don't have $400 a month. I don't have $200 a month. You're sitting there doing the mental math at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday, calculating whether you can even do $50 because rent in Vancouver went up again, your car needs new brakes, the grocery bill keeps creeping, and the numbers just don't ever quite work out. I see you. That feeling is real. That feeling is also exactly what the system wants you to feel. Give up before you start, because $50 doesn't feel like enough. Here's the truth. $50 a month at 8% over 30 years is about $74,000. $100 a month is $148,000. $150 a month is $222,000. Inside a TFSA, tax-free. The lazy method does not require you to be rich. It requires you to start. Whatever the number is, that's the number. Future you doesn't care if you started with $50 or $500. Future you just cares that you started. There was a guy in Vermont named Ronald Read, gas station attendant for 25 years, janitor at JCPenney for another 17, drove a used Toyota, wore a flannel coat, held together with safety pins. The whole town thought he was poor. He died at 92 with an $8 million estate. He bought boring dividend stocks and never sold. That is what the lazy method actually looks like in real life. Not a guru on a yacht. A janitor in a flannel coat who quietly out-invested almost every hedge fund manager of his generation by doing nothing exciting for 60 straight years. Now, in the spirit of being honest, I need to mention where we are right now, because pretending the future is guaranteed to look like the past is how people get hurt. As of May 2026, the S&P 500 is sitting around 7,400 all-time high. The TSX is also near record territory. The Shiller-Cape ratio, which measures how expensive stocks are relative to long-term earnings, is at roughly 40. The historical average is around 17. The only other times in history it's been this high were 1929 and 1999, which, did not end well for the people who bought right at the top. Robert Shiller, the Nobel laureate the ratio is named after, projects U.S. real returns over the next decade might be as low as 1.3% a year. So the next 10 years may not look like the last 10. What does that mean for the lazy method? Two things. One, plan with 6 to 7% nominal as your central case, not 10. The math still works. It just takes a couple more years. Two, this is exactly when discipline matters most. When the next crash happens, and at this valuation level it eventually will, you'll be tempted to sell. Don't. You'll be tempted to wait it out in cash. Don't. The lazy method assumes you keep buying right through the scary parts, especially the scary parts, because that's when ETF shares are on sale. So let's bring this home, because if you're still here, you actually care about this. I respect that. $10,000 to $500,000 in a TFSA is real. The math works. The strategy is buy a low-cost, globally diversified ETF, automate your contributions, and don't sell. That is the entire game. The reason you've never heard it explained this simply is that nobody can build a business charging you for it. There's no commission on doing nothing. There's no upsell on patience. There's no premium subscription for sitting still. The lazy method is a financial product the entire Canadian banking industry has a direct financial incentive to talk you out of. And look, if you're sitting there feeling like you're behind, like everyone else is making 40% on meme stocks, and you're somehow falling further behind by being patient, listen, you are not behind. You're playing the long game in a culture that worships the short one. The system rewards noise. The lazy method wins anyway. You have permission to be the boring one. The boring one wins. Wealth, the real kind, the kind that sticks, isn't built by being right one time. It's built by not being wrong over and over for 30 years. It's built by automating one boring decision and aggressively ignoring it. There is no prize for making it complicated, no trophy for stress. So, set it up this week, set it up tonight, then forget about it. And in 30 years, when your boring TFSA quietly hands you $500,000 tax-free dollars, you can be the person in the 2014 Civic at the Costco gas pump in Mississauga who knew something everyone else missed. Real wealth was never the Lambo. It was the Civic. Quiet, paid off, and earning you money the entire time you weren't watching.